8.5 months pregnant, and literally the airline did not let her board the plane.
If you want to see us battle it out.
For the viewer out there who is listening, who is like, do I move? Do I make the move? Imagine being on a plane and someone's given birth. What are the things that make you want to stay in the US?
The reality is...
We just recorded like 20 minutes of this, and Annika forgot to press record on her device.
I'm not a YouTuber like Ellie.
That's actually crazy. Anyways, hello everyone. We are Jam and Jelly. It's a podcast where we're going to be talking about the differences between Australia and the US. If you don't know already, I have a YouTube channel called Ellie Majelli, where both of us were born in Australia and then grew up in America, but then I decided to move back to Australia, and my lovely sister here, Annika, decided to stay. If you're tuning in for the first time as well to the series, we're just doing a limited series while I'm visiting here in California. If you guys really like the videos and the podcast series, definitely leave a comment down if you want to see us do a couple more episodes. Any good ideas, leave them down below, and maybe we could do a little remote version.
A little virtual podcast.
Yeah, that could be cute too. Today's episode, what we're going to be discussing, if you haven't read the title already, is the reasons on why I moved to Australia, why I moved back to Australia, but then also the reasons on why Annika decided to stay. It's also good because I think my YouTube is always the perspective of myself, but bringing her in to kind of give the perspective of what it was like.
I know your story as well.
Exactly.
I'm your sister, duh.
Yeah.
But, I think that it's interesting to hear it from a different perspective.
Yeah. It's like the perspective of those who stayed. Ooh, dramatic.
Bruh, it's not that dramatic. I just chose to live where I already lived.
Yeah, true.
Like what?
Yeah. That's fair. Great. Did we miss anything else that we said in the first?
No, but I do want to tell your origin story.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Because you've heard it from Ellie before, but I want
yeah
to have your viewers kind of see it from another perspective.
Yeah.
So you made the decision to leave, 2 years ago?
It was 2023, and we're recording this in May 2025.
And you and I, we spent the whole pandemic together for the most part.
Yeah.
Right. We were living together for a period, and then we were, I think, just closer and always doing stuff together.
Yeah, totally.
In that period.
And we've always lived within an hour's drive between each other. Yeah.
But I remember when you first were like, I'm going to move to Australia, I was like, no way.
Really?
I was like, cap.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought you would run out of money and want to come home.
Oh my God.
Because I remember really vividly too when you were living at our aunt's house.
Yeah.
And essentially sleeping on her couch, right?
Yeah, I was totally
I was like, you're going to run out of money and want to come home.
No.
So I was like, that can't be fun, sleeping on someone's couch for 4 months.
I did do it for 4 months. That was crazy.
I love our aunt, but I'm sure I would feel like a burden. I would be like, oh, I want my own space,
Yeah. No, I definitely did want that. I mean, we'll get into it a little bit later, but
yeah.
No, I was set on the dream. I was like, I'm not returning back to the US because that, I don't know, feels a bit like failure.
But I think too, you probably talked to me more about it being tough.
Yeah, true.
And being like, oh, this sucks because I don't have a car and I can't get anywhere from where you were living. And just it being tough, being away from James, being away from
James
all
is my
your
boyfriend,
friends.
by the way.
Yeah. So I think it was, I definitely had doubts about you staying.
That's hilarious.
But as soon as you moved to the city,
yeah,
I was like, okay, you're staying.
I'm freaking living the life.
When you got that first apartment, I was like, oh, okay, she's for real. And then I think too, because I visited you when you had pretty much just moved into that apartment.
Yeah.
And that apartment was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was a vibe.
But
anyways, origin story about our family.
Oh, I forgot.
Not even just me.
Okay, yeah. So you've heard the story from Ellie before about our family and choices of living in America versus the US, but we can hear it from me this time. So we are 3 siblings between all of us. So we're 2 and we have 1 other sibling. Ellie was born in Australia. I was born in Australia. And they were kind of waiting on me to be born so that we could go and move to America for the first time.
Oh my God, this is actually hectic, but my mom was 8.5 months pregnant. And literally, the airline did not let her board the plane because
they were like, "You got to push this little girl out.
She's
first.
too pregnant. She's too pregnant." And they're like, "If she gets on this plane, she might have the baby on the plane."
And that's not fun. I don't want to be born on a plane.
No, who? Yeah. Imagine being on a plane and someone's given birth.
I'm like, so what citizenship do I get?
True, actually.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're like, I'm just trying to watch Moana, not trying to hear some lady give birth without any pain meds.
Moana wasn't released back then. It was 2000. It was 2000.
Yeah, true, actually. It's 2000.
But anyway, so I came to America.
Wait, I do want to say, though, literally, Annika was 3 weeks old when she went to the U.S. for the first time. Like 3 weeks.
My passport
baby.
picture is like my head being held up, eyes closed.
Had no neck string.
I still have that passport.
No neck string.
Yeah, but so definitely, I came to the U.S. for the first time when I was a newborn, essentially.
Yeah.
But we didn't stay very long. I think we stayed 6 months or a year.
Yeah, it wasn't very long. It was more just a trial for my dad our dad to go work.
Because he had work opportunities in America. And so,
there.
I mean, that's what drove our family over here in the first place.
Yeah.
So we ended up going back to Australia, and we lived there until I was 6, you were 8, and we moved to America for real the first time.
And it was funny because I was actually talking to Mom the other day, and she was like, yeah, we were only supposed to move again for a year. And then we ended up staying 15 plus
Mom
years.
and Dad's lore is insane.
I know.
Like, sometimes I think about that. I'm like, you were like, you know, you already have 2 kids. You're in the middle of having your children, right?
Yeah.
Because I think they knew that they were going to have Adam too.
Yeah, that's our brother.
And to do all of that and move countries in the middle of it, that's crazy.
They're crazy because when I was 9 months old, they took me backpacking through a country that had active war. They were like, oh yeah, we can't.
Yeah. They're like, Yugoslavia just fell.
No, they were
let's
like,
bring our child there.
9-month-old, first baby as well. And think about it. They're like, oh yeah, we couldn't fly in. We had to take a boat because they banned all like planes going over. So that's I'm going to take my 9-month-old baby. I don't know.
There's some cool pictures though. You're just strapped on their back.
Yeah, I mean, I was living, loving, laughing.
Our parents are cool.
Yeah. Anyways.
But yeah, and then since then we've stayed here, and I think we all were under the assumption that like, you know, we're American now. Like, I mean, growing up, definitely I was like, oh yeah, like I'm Australian, like I was born there, and like my family's from there, but I'm American. You know, like I'm living in America. I'm probably gonna live in America forever.
Yeah.
And I think the assumption was that we would all stay as well. Our brother was born in America, so it's kind of, you know, we have that tie too, but he does have dual citizenship.
We all have dual citizenship now. So. But it was funny actually, because for a while our brother was the only one who had U.S. citizenship. We were still on permanent residency. We had a green card, and then we were waiting to get our citizenship. And I don't know if you felt this way too, but we always thought that our brother was going to be the president.
Oh my God, no, because you have to be a natural born U.S. citizen to become president, right?
Meaning you have to be born in the country, like...
Growing up, though, I barely understood that. So, like, Mom and Dad would be like, oh, you know, our brother can
He's
be
eligible.
the next president, right? And I was like, oh, so Adam's going to be the president one day. Okay. I was like, oh, wow. What are you going to do when you run this country,
he was
brother?
Probably the farthest thing from being a president.
I would never want to see him in office.
I would never want to see it either. Love you, Adam, but not, man. No. But yeah, so then I ended up moving back over to Australia in 2023 in February. So I do want to talk a bit about what it was like to actually move and make that decision, because I think for the viewers too, you might be in a position where you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to move to the US, or maybe maybe you're Australian, you want to move to the US, maybe you're US, you want to move to Australia. I hear a lot of people are moving to Australia recently. So to give kind of perspective on how I made this.
People are always moving to America.
And they're always moving to Australia.
Okay.
We'll have another episode on that, don't worry.
If you want to see us battle it out.
Battle it out. Sisters, Jam and Jelly.
US versus Australia.
Yeah.
Guns. Sorry.
Stop.
Freedom. Oh, sorry.
Stop.
I have American Tourette's.
Don't say that. But yeah, so I think how I actually made the decision was quite interesting.
Let me say one thing about you moving from America to Australia and kind of the logistics of all of that as well. Ellie left so much shit behind. I want to take you upstairs, right, to my room and show you all the stuff where it's like, oh, I took that from the pile you left at Mom and Dad's house when you moved. I took that from the pile you left when you moved.
I moved so suddenly.
I have your sewing machine. I have your car.
Yeah, true. She did take my car. That's crazy.
I have so many of your clothes.
Crazy.
Yeah. So it was kind of a good thing for me when she moved, because I got all of her stuff.
Oh my God. Well, no, I just left so suddenly. So I do want to talk about that too, because my decision was just like, yep, I'm gone. And I just did everything and moved.
Yeah. But I mean, you had the liberty of making that decision too.
That's
because
true.
for if the situation was different, like I can imagine if me and my boyfriend wanted to move to Australia, it would be so much bigger than what you had
they have a dog together. They're like looking, I mean, you're kind of in the process of buying a house at the moment.
Yeah, we're buying a house in America right now.
Crazy. Exciting. In this economy,
we're gonna refinance.
Okay. But yeah, like, I don't know. I think the situation I was in, I mean, I'm still dating my boyfriend now that I was with when I moved too, but it's like my decision was so easy and fast because I didn't have dependencies on me.
But you also had a support network
and support network
too.
And like my family was already there. So that's the thing, like why I could move so fast. I didn't have to organize where I was living because it was just like, okay, I'm gonna stay with family
until you find a place.
Exactly. Yeah. But anyways, how I made the decision. So in 2022, I was working a fully remote job that was all online. So because of that, I got to travel around a little bit, and I was like, I'm gonna take full advantage of this, even though I was low-key broke. Like, it was not paying much, but it paid me in freedom. Paid me in freedom units. Just
can't
kidding.
beat freedom in America though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just saying.
But yeah, so I was working in this job. And because I was free to travel as I could, I was like, okay, I'm going to go over to Australia. Because when we were kids too, anytime we visited Australia, it was always one in winter because it was the summer holidays.
Always in winter, and it was always so cold.
Yeah, so that was crap. But it was also, it was once every like 4 to 7 years. Like, we really didn't go often because it was so damn expensive. Like, think about it. If you're bringing a family of 5 across, like, it's gonna be so expensive. Like, and at least $1,000 per person. That's $5,000.
Yeah, I have never done any touristy stuff in Australia because when we went, it was always on a budget and
with
just
family.
Seeing family. Really,
yeah.
We would always come in the winter. It would always be freezing cold. You would take off in San Francisco with your shorts on and your tank top, and then you would get to Australia and just be freezing in the airport. I remember that always. But I think it was always kind of the same thing. We would be there for 2 months in the summer, and it was just visiting family the whole time, which is, it's now I really see the value in that because I'm older and like I love my family and we've stayed connected over the years and everything, like,
but it was always just such a big gap. And that's the thing, like, we didn't get to go frequently because it was so expensive, because it was like, oh, I kind of want an American and Californian summer as well. We do live in California.
We come back so pale.
Yeah. We were so pale.
Everyone's got their tans. They've been at the beach all summer
for like 3 months,
and we come back ghostly
pale,
white. Yeah,
pale.
So,
but yeah, so I actually came back to Australia twice in 2022. So I came back during that summer/winter period. So winter in Australia. Which was like June, July, and I had a blast. Like, I was having so much fun even though it was cold. So I think the fact as well that I appreciated Australia when it was cold goes to show how much I do love it.
I think we are both very similar in the fact that we like warm weather.
We do love warm weather.
I would never live somewhere like Seattle where it rains all the time. No way.
Low key though, why am I living in Melbourne, man? Like, Melbourne does not have good weather.
Melbourne can have good weather.
We've actually had great weather this past year. But anyways, and then again, I visited in Christmas. So that was like December-ish, because my boyfriend, he is from New Zealand. So we were going back to see his family, but I was like, I'm so close to Australia, I might as well go. Also, I bought my ticket so last minute that the only ticket that was available was first class. I did get a ride first class, but that was $1,000 US dollars.
That's crazy.
Like, for one way. Shocking. Yeah. Why are the flights between Australia and New Zealand so expensive when it's a 4-hour flight?
That's only Australia to New Zealand?
Yep, literally. That was that expensive.
But first class, kind of nice.
It was bougie. I did have some fun champagne. Story for another time. But when I visited for those times, like, I just was like, wow, I love this so much. And because I was working a remote job, I didn't really have a strong community.
She didn't work very hard.
Bro. No.
You would clock in for 8 hours and work for 2.
My job did not require me to be working for a full 8 hours. I will say that. It was only like 2 to 3 hours a day. And but that's what they were paying me for. True. And I
took the game.
I took it to my advantage, and I traveled the world. So yeah, when I was there in Australia, I was like, I'm having so much fun. I love being around my family. I forgot how fun our family is.
Our family's very fun.
Like, our family is just like a bunch of characters in the best way possible and on both sides. And we're close to both of them, even with the distance. So I was like, you know what? I have lived majority of my life away from my family. I want to live with them again. So I was telling all my aunts and uncles, I was like, I'm going to move back. I'm going to move back. And they're like, similar to...
They were like, Cap.
Yeah, similarly to you. They were just like, that's not happening. There's no way, girlfriend. Like, nice joke, haha. So then when I came back in January, I also was hating this job. I mean, even though I was only working 2 hours a day, I was hating it.
That's like the worst kind of job.
It is the worst job. Like, I'm someone who's really like, I want to work hard, I want to improve, I want to do all this stuff, but I get all my work done in 2 hours. So I was like, I need something more that's going to give me, you know, more excitement about life, because it was so boring. I was working, living, existing all in the same room.
Her job sucked.
Yeah, it was horrible. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to have to quit my job and just do it. No backup plan, just freaking full send. Yeah. So I decided in January, I was still on holiday in New Zealand, and I obviously was working that time. I log on to the computer and I have a meeting with my director, and I'm like, I've decided that I'm leaving and I'm putting in my notice and I'm not going to work anymore. And she's like, I'm so happy for you. Like, you know, you're moving to Australia. That's awesome. Good for you. Be back with your family. So I pretty much just made the decision, started selling all my stuff, and
leaving it all behind.
I did leave a lot behind. But then I gave myself a date. I was like, okay, I'm just going to book the flight, one-way ticket to Australia, full sends, February 2nd. It also was my anniversary with my boyfriend, so I feel kind of bad for that.
But also like your 2 thing, because you were born, can I say your birthday?
Yeah.
On February 22nd, so 222.
Yeah.
Right? And your anniversary is on 2. Isn't it 2022?
Did I do that on purpose? No. We started dating 2021. So just off.
So
yeah.
Close,
I even have a 2 tattoo on my wrist.
I did that.
Annika is very talented. She also did my nails.
Yeah. I'm also a graphic designer. Shameless plug here.
Yep.
Follow me on Instagram. Will you put a pop-up in there for me?
She also designed our little intro thing.
Yeah.
So,
I'm available for hire.
Yeah, so. If you need her email's in the description.
Yeah.
Maybe I did do that on purpose. I was like, February 2nd, 2/2, that's when I'm flying out. Was it? So yeah, I just decided, and I was like, all right, we're freaking doing this. And I sold everything, moved over, and we just freaking did it. So because our family's there too, I ended up staying with my aunt and uncle for about like 4 months. And that was where I was like, okay.
It was a long time.
It was a long time, but I gave myself the first month just to relax, and spend all that time with family. Because the worst thing is you move, then you start in a job right away. And it's...
Well, you mentioned it the other day
hectic.
Too. And I was like, I totally forgot you did that. But working all those like random food service jobs.
Yeah, because I was like you said, I was kind of running out of money. Yeah. I mean, the exchange rate was good from US dollars to AUD, so I didn't have to worry too much. But it still, everything costs money. And like, yeah, I wasn't really paying rent or anything like that. But like, I did have to figure out how I was just going to exist. So I got some random ass jobs where I was like a waitress at a pizza, like Italian restaurant.
Like, yeah, that was the one you mentioned. And I was like, I forgot you did that.
That's so random. But it was just like stuff to, you know, kind of get by and be
just
like, okay, just so I can get some money and like pay for things. Cause yeah, life is expensive. But yeah, that was a little bit of my story on how I moved and all that stuff. But I do want to ask more from your perspective, what was it like seeing your sister just pick up and move across the world? And when, especially for you, like you love America. So it's like, oh my God, why would she want to leave?
I mean, I get why you wanted to leave. You talk a lot of the United States and kind of like be like, oh, it sucks. You guys do that here and that sucks. But I do think that like, besides that, I get moving back to Australia just to be with family. Because we have a great family.
We do.
And so it was like, I kind of get it, you know? And there's been periods of my life as well where I've thought, what if I moved back to Australia?
True.
But I got it, right? I got why you moved, but I was kind of like, this will be like a year or two thing. Like, I didn't really think it would be as permanent as it's become. But we've always lived like some kind of distance apart, right? So, I mean, besides from COVID when we were living together and when we were growing up, we've always lived like an hour or two apart. So for me, it was like, okay, well now instead of seeing you like once a month, now it's like, I kind of just don't really see you very much at all. Yeah. And because I saw you, your going away party, right? Yeah. We were together. And then I saw you when I visited Australia. And then I saw you when you came this time.
Wow.
In the last 2 years.
That's actually insane. Yeah.
But the thing is, though, is that now we have technology. And that makes so much of a difference because I can FaceTime you.
Yeah, true.
Right? Anytime. Yeah. And it's just figuring out those time zones and everything. I would say the worst part is the time zone difference.
Yeah.
Because you be calling me sometimes way too late. I'm asleep. It's a Tuesday.
Especially after daylight savings time starts. So, I mean,
get mad at her.
One thing I want to talk about too is like how we kind of work it out so that we can communicate effectively.
Well, what I like to do is before I call you, I check the time zone.
Okay.
But I know that you don't do that.
Yeah,
so.
no, not always. But we kind of work it out to like a schedule. And I think Australia to the US is kind of hard too because you're a day ahead in Australia. So it's like plus 17, 18 hours depending on daylight savings. And when I'm in, like when I wake up in the morning, right, it'll be like, let's say a Saturday, like I'll call you Saturday morning. That's your Friday afternoon, like Friday, 2 p.m.
But
and
it
she's
works
working,
out that like
she's doing all this stuff.
You call me in the morning and I'm on my lunch break.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's like sometimes it works.
No, true. Like it does work well sometimes and other times it's a little bit shit. Yeah. Because of the daylight savings time. But I feel like we make it work where it's like anytime I'm walking to work in the morning, it's like a 15-20 minute walk, so I can just be like, oh, I'll just call her real quick, have a little chat with her, and then get on the train and like go to work and stuff. So I think we do figure out a way that we can make it work.
But also we're used to that too because we're a very global family. Like we have family that lives in America, we have family that lives in Australia, in Albania. Yeah. I'm used to, even with my boyfriend's family, they live in Spain, right? Your boyfriend's from New Zealand. So like we're used to communicating across the globe.
And like a lot of our friends from college as well are just international. So
you, a lot, not me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
All of them live in America. I have one friend though, who lives on the East Coast, right? So that's thousands of miles away from here. And like, it's kind of the same thing. Like you learn how to keep in touch with people.
Yeah, true. Okay, another question I have for you is why do you like what are the things that make you want to stay in the US versus like moving back to Australia?
I think it's people at the end of the day.
But then what about our family?
That's the thing though, like because I get it. Like I love our family and I love spending time with them in Australia, but the reality is that like I've really established myself and my career especially in America, and so has my partner. And we also have a dog who's huge, and that'd be a what's it called? That would be a kerfuffle to try and get him on a plane. So what makes me want to stay too is that like all my friends are here. This is what I know, and I'm happy with it. Yeah. And I think also my partner, his family is all, they live in America. I mean, they live across America too. Some of them are in Spain, some of them are in Minnesota, so it's like there's still kind of that people are all over the place. But
we do live in a time now, we were talking about this in the car actually, how we live in a time now where it's so easy to connect with like FaceTime. You can FaceTime someone on the other side of the world and there's like a 1 second delay, not even a 1 second delay, like it's so fast. And like if you were to do that 10, 20, 30 years ago, that's not possible.
Well, I'm like, I remember when FaceTime first came out, right? And it was like, now we don't have to Skype all the time.
We would have to Skype all of our relatives. So of course we're not.
And you would call in, right, to like our grandparents' house, and it would be chaotic. A computer sitting on the kitchen counter facing the dining room, and there's like a million people at the table, a million children running around under the table. Everyone's talking so loud, and the microphone quality was so bad. And like you're just like, okay, I love you, Grandpa. Can you hear me? I love you, Grandpa.
And he's just like eating a soup. I know, so bad.
Across 30 different conversations.
So bad.
Yeah, so definitely like
technology makes it so easy now. Yeah. Like it's not that hard. Like we work it out.
And like even like we work on projects together because like when I do graphic design stuff for Ellie, like we'll work, we're sharing screens on our computer. It's like we're sitting next to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's funny because now that you're here and I haven't seen you really in 2 years, right? It doesn't really feel that weird. It doesn't really feel like you left at all.
No, true. I came back and I was like, first everything was a little bit shocking because it's been 2 years since I came back. And I was like, whoa, this is so different. But also, it just, after a day, I was like, oh, this is familiar. I know these roads and I do this and all that.
Yeah. Actually, even driving too. You drove
Yeah.
Your old car, now my car.
That's what I was going to say. We have some other episodes that are coming out too where we talk more about like the culture shocks. So like culture shocks of what I experienced like coming back to California, like what you felt was culture shocks when you came to Australia for the first time in a while too. So we're going to be talking more about that in a little bit. Yeah. A couple of the other episodes.
Tune into our other episodes.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, like, how do you feel like the family feels that I'm away now? Like, because when you hang out with the family,
we're so glad. No, I'm just kidding.
Excuse me. But it's only like 4 people. It's not the 5 anymore.
I will say, like, when we were all sitting at a table again, I was like, "Aw, we're all together."
Yeah, that was nice.
I was like, "Oh, the whole family." But I think we've adapted too, and you've always been very independent. So I think that it's kind of like, "Oh, okay, Ellie's not here." A lot of the time you weren't there because you were doing your own thing. But I will say though, like, it is a little different when I go home and it's just me and our brother Adam.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of like, oh, you know, like
something is missing.
I'm like, something's missing, or like, you know, like, because we'll talk about you too, and like, or we'll call you and stuff like that, and it's kind of like,
I wish I was there. Yeah, exactly.
Get the fly, Salty.
Annika's dog is trying to eat some flies.
Someone left the door open.
I'm just feeling Australia vibes. You know, I just need to let some flies in and bring the Australianisms here.
It's the one part I don't like about Australia.
I know. The flies are so bad. The flies are so bad. All right. I did want to just talk about some other reasons on like why I did move to Australia, because it's not just our family that were kind of the reasons. I feel like it also comes down to the quality of life that I was living. Like, we're in the Bay Area too, which is so expensive. And when I came to Melbourne, everyone was like, "Oh, it's so expensive here." And I'm like, no, it's not.
Not really.
not in comparison. Like, you will pay, oh my God, I spent at Phil's like $9 on a coffee the other day. And I was like, what?
But that's also like, people have higher wages here than they do in Australia. When you convert your salary to American dollars,
I don't know if it's directly transferable, but like in Australia, let's say add like a salary, let's say you're earning like 80,000.
$9 is still crazy for a coffee.
I know. Yeah. Exactly. Like, I would not pay 9 Australian dollars. There's no, like, $9 US. But that's even more.
I'd pay 6 or 7 for a fluffy coffee.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, for a coffee with like sweetener and like whipped cream.
But in
stuff.
Australia, it's like 6 AUD, which is like $3 to $4 US.
Yeah, but that's also like I think America's very different in that, because like in Europe, way cheaper there too.
True.
Coffee was like, when we were in Spain, it was like €3 for a coffee.
Yeah, damn.
And like €3 for a beer. Here, I feel like I pay $8 for a cheap beer, $12 for an expensive beer.
Let's save this for another episode, because we could talk so much more detail into this.
Well, we're going to do an episode on kind of like those differences as well.
Yeah, totally. So and the cultures, shocks and all that too. Sorry, back to what I was saying before too about the reasons that I did move. Definitely like the money side of things, work-life balance. I wanted more freedom, which is a little bit ironic coming out of the US. But for example, like, I didn't want to have to use a car anymore. I don't own a car.
But there's places I think you could have moved to in the US that would have given you that.
Yes, but we had family in Australia, so it made it easier. And also just like the Australian lifestyle is so just like,
I get that, like experience a new place. Or even though if it's not new really, but like living in a place you haven't really lived in since you were little. I get that. But I do think that at the end of the day, Australia and America are very, very similar. Yeah,
they are very similar. Yeah. So it made the transition quite easy, to be honest. So I think what I would want to say too, for the viewer out there who is listening, who is like, do I move? Do I make the move? Maybe it's not even Australia. Maybe you're thinking some other country too. If you have even just a little bit of curiosity or a little bit of like, oh my God, I really want to do this, but I don't know, there's risks in taking, like, I don't know. Freaking do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Both of us here are telling you to do it. That's 2 people telling you.
I haven't even moved anywhere.
Yeah, but she's telling you. So that says something.
But I think I've seen you definitely like expand your worldview and become more independent.
It has transformed me in the most positive way possible. So I 100% say, like, even if you go and you hate it, like you were saying, you thought I was going to move back. I could totally have moved back and then it would have been absolutely fine. But at least I got the experience, got to do all that stuff. And being able to make that choice and go and travel and like do all that stuff, it made me realize that I love it even more. And now I realize that that's where I want to be in Australia. So,
and if you plan well and you do it well and you're smart about it, it's okay if you fail.
It's totally okay.
You got a cool opportunity to do something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
but you're not going to fail.
This is your sign. It's time to move countries. get your passport and get going. Boom. Thank you guys so much for listening in to Jam and Jelly for another episode. We're going to be making a couple more of these, so stay tuned.
Much love.